Rover 800 1986-91. The Rover 800 series is an executive car range manufactured by the Austin Rover Group subsidiary of British Leyland, and its successor the Rover Group from 1986 to 1999. It was also marketed as the Sterling in the United States. Co-developed with Honda, it was a close relative to the Honda Legend and the successor to the Rover SD1. The first product of the BL-Honda alliance was the Triumph Acclaim, and shortly after its launch the two companies mapped out an advisable strategy for future collaborative projects. Plans for a mid-size car were investigated, but were dropped because BL already had the Austin Maestro and Austin Montego in the final stages of development. However, both BL and Honda had a pressing need for a full-size executive car in their lineups. BL had to start planning for a successor to the Rover SD1, whilst Honda was keen to expand its presence in the lucrative North American market, something which it couldn't fully do unless it had a full-size luxury saloon. At that time the Honda Accord was its biggest model, which would compete with similar large Japanese imports from Toyota and Datsun. Joint development of the car began in 1981 under the 20 code name. The corresponding Honda version was known as the Honda Legend, and was codenamed as HX. The development work was carried out at Rover's Cali plant and Honda's Tochigi Development Center. Both cars shared the same core structure and floor pan, but they each had their own unique exterior bodywork and interior. Under the agreement, Honda would supply the V6 petrol engine, both automatic and manual transmissions and the chassis design, whilst BL would provide the four-cylinder petrol engine and much of the electrical systems. Honda and Austin Rover agreed that Legends would also be built in the Cali plant for the British market. The US market, Acura, Legends were built in Japan. At launch, the 2-liter versions of the 800 used two naturally aspirated 2.0 liters 16-valve developments of British Leyland's stalwart O series engine, dubbed the M series. However, in 1988 an 820 fastback, no letter after the 820 badge, with a single carburetor version of the O series was launched for the fleet market. The M series was divided into two versions, the M16E fitted to the 820/SE, with single-point injection, and the M16I which was fitted to the 820i/C with multi-point injection, that is 4 injectors. The engine management system derived from that used in the MG Maestro and MG Montego models. The top 2.5-liter versions, 825i and Sterling, used a Honda-designed V6 unit in 2.5 liters capacity. Initially, only a saloon body was offered. A liftback version, referred to as a fastback, became available in 1988. There were no V8 versions of the Rover 800 series, in contrast to earlier Rover saloons of this size, including its immediate predecessor, the SD1. Unlike its rear-wheel drive predecessor, it had front-wheel drive. Later, a diesel version of the car was launched in 1990 using a 2,498cc engine from Italian company VM Motori, which was related to the slightly smaller engine used in the 2400 SD Turbo model of the Rover SD1, and Range Rover Turbo D. The Sterling badge was used in Europe and most global markets to denote the top saloon luxury version, and the Vitesse badge used to denote the top fastback sporting version. The Vitesse became available at the same time as the 2675cc Honda V6. Both of these top-of-the-range models were initially only available in the UK with the V6. In some European markets, in particular Italy, the 2.0-liter petrol was badged as Sterling and later available, in turbo form, as Vitesse to avoid punitive duties that made engines over 2.0 liters non-viable for volume sales. At the time of the launch, the Sterling provoked controversy as it overlapped in price with the entry-level versions of the Jaguar XJ40, which was launched at the same time, and had been developed largely when Jaguar was still part of British Leyland. Towards the end of Mark I production, the Vitesse had nearly as many luxury features as the Sterling, for example, electric front seats. There was also a brief run of just over 500 820 Turbo 16V cars using a turbocharged version of the M series developed with help from Tickford, leading to this model often being referred to as the Tickford Turbo. Utilizing such enhancements as sodium-filled exhaust valves and Mahler-forged pistons, the car produced 180 bhp, 134 kilowatts, although there is much speculation about this figure being severely held back by the electronics as not to step on the toes of the 177 bhp, 132 kilowatts, V6 engine models, as well as to preserve the reliability of the gearbox. In the USA, the car was branded as the Sterling, not a Rover, and was only available with the Honda V6 petrol engines. Initial sales in America were strong, and the design was well received. However, early vehicles were soon found to have build quality and reliability problems. Sales fell in the USA as the reputation of the model deteriorated, with J.D. Power surveys and journalists noting problems with the trim, electrics, paintwork, and excessive corrosion. This was especially damaging as at the same time, the same core vehicle, the Acura Legend, was doing well in America. Many mechanical parts for the Sterling 825-827 are still readily available, as it was similar to the Acura Legend in these areas, save for braking systems. However, electrical, body, and interior parts are quite difficult to locate in the US now. Despite the problems in America, it was the best-selling executive car in the UK for 8 years. In February 1988, the 2.5 liters engine was enlarged to 2.7 liters. The Maestro-derived instrumentation had been changed to gauges sourced from a different component builder, losing the oil pressure gauge and voltmeter in the process, and build quality had vastly improved. A budget version of the 800, using an 8-valve, as opposed to the usual 16-valve, version of the O series engine was introduced. This was called M8. It differed from the O series engine as the water pump was driven by the timing belt. Though this budget model was short-lived. The original version of the Rover 800 was one of the most popular cars in Britain's full-sized executive car market, which at this stage was effectively split into two strong sectors: mainstream brands such as Ford and Vauxhall, and prestige brands such as BMW and Audi. It directly competed with the likes of the Ford Granada, Scorpio, and Vauxhall Carlton.